Hello, my name's Deborah Paris, and I'm a member of the senior class cabinet. This year's faculty speaker has been making a difference at Bentley for 13 years by inspiring students and fellow peers to represent Bentley's well-known virtues and values. He currently is a marketing lecturer, the director of the professional sales program at Bentley, and member of the Corporate Immersion Institute. Whether you've had Pooley as a professor or run into him between classes, he's a familiar face on campus. Please join me in welcoming Professor James Pouliopoulos to the stage.
As many of the other speakers, I am completely humbled and honored to have been asked to speak to you today at your baccalaureate ceremony. Here's something interesting. I've never spoken at baccalaureate before, and in fact, I've never even written the word baccalaureate before. The first time I tried to spell the word baccalaureate, I froze at my keyboard and I suddenly realized what it felt like to be a student at one of my classes when someone tries to write the name Pouliopoulos. So I apologize for that. When I was 8 years old, my parents took my brother and I to Horseneck Beach on Cape Cod for a day in the sun. And if you know anything about Horseneck Beach, there are a few things that it's known for. One is these huge waves that you can play in. It's also known for the horseflies, which are sort of like annoying mosquitoes on steroids, and occasionally a really vicious undertow in the ocean. My father and I were swimming for a while when we noticed that the undertow had dragged us out pretty far. And we were suddenly in water that was over my father's head, and the waves were still pretty high. I was pretty scared, but not because the water was over my head. I was pretty scared because my father was starting to panic. And he started yelling to me and telling me to move towards the shore, to swim, to keep moving towards the shore, swim, 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 and don't look back, he kept saying. And in all the chaos, I noticed that another father and his daughter were being rescued by lifeguards. And I thought to myself, if they're being rescued by the lifeguards, who's going to come and help us? And the answer was no one. We were left to fend for ourselves. My father kept grabbing me by the waist and kind of pushing me forward and saying, swim, don't look back, swim. And every time he pushed me forward, he dipped below the surface of the ocean. And I remember thinking that I prayed every time that he'd resurface, because he was gasping for air and just kind of pushing me forward. When he did resurface, he'd continue to yell at me to just keep moving forward and not worry about him, just to keep swimming. Eventually, we made it to the shore without the help of the lifeguards, who had their hands full on that particular day. And it took me a number of years to really realize what I had witnessed. What I had witnessed was basically the power of love and sacrifice. As a parent myself now, I realize that my father was trying to save my life, and in the act of saving me, he was willing to die. And each time that he pushed me forward and gasped for air as he went under could have been his last moment. He was concerned with only one thing at that time, and that was my future. For the parents, the grandparents, and the guardians in the audience, you know this sense of sacrifice and selflessness. You have worried about your child's future every day for over 20 years. You struggled with the tricky balance between giving your children a sense of independence and while protecting them from themselves and all of the external forces and the temptations that could have derailed them from this day. Some of you have dipped below the surface financially or emotionally in your single-minded pursuit of getting your son or daughter to the shore to this day, the eve of graduation from Bentley University. Well, here's the good news. You did it, you succeeded. Your sons and daughters have made it to the shore. They are safe and they're ready to begin their own journey. You can relax. You should relax. Mom and Dad, please relax. For the graduating seniors, each of you is here today in part, large or small, because of the sacrifice of the people who love you very deeply. And you owe them a huge obligation, but perhaps not the obligation you might assume. I'm sure that some of you feel a sense of financial obligation or professional obligation to follow a certain career path or to do what everyone expects you to do now that you will be a graduate from Bentley University. But I'm not referring to that type of obligation. When my father successfully saved me from the undertow, I probably sat down and built a sandcastle or collected some seashells. I was 8. My father's only thought was gratitude that I was alive and happy and playing on the beach. And all he wanted in that moment, at the end of a life and death struggle, was simply to see me be happy. So the obligation that you owe your parents and supporters is simply this: be genuinely happy in this next stage of your life. What makes you genuinely happy? It's such a simple thing, but so many people struggle with it. Why is this so hard? The majority of people work in careers for which they have no passion and have regrets about the roads not taken. So, my next assignment to you, my next challenge to you, is to figure out what makes you happy. And here's how. They say that life is not a dress rehearsal, but college is a dress rehearsal for life. These last 4 years were a chance for you to feel a sense of independence that you had never experienced before in a relatively safe environment where you could try things, make mistakes, and learn from every experience with a minimal impact on your future. So, reflect on the last 4 years and look beyond the classes and the coursework and ask yourself, when were you happiest? What were you doing? Who were you with? When you were working in one of those endless student teams, did you play the role of decision maker, spokesperson, analyst, peacemaker? Which activities gave you the most energy without having to be pushed or prompted by a faculty member or a deadline? What club or organization or activity did you enjoy the most? These are all the clues to create a professional and a personal life that will make you happy and successful. Pay attention to these clues and find opportunities to do more of the things you love and do well with more of the people that you enjoy working with during the next phase of your life. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you don't have a clear picture of what makes you genuinely happy and how you define success for yourself, other people, like parents and friends and colleagues, will rush in to fill the void with their definition of what happiness and success could be for you. In the absence of your own vision for your life, others will try to help you create a vision they feel is right for you. Other people's expectations can tug at you like the undertow at the beach. It's very subtle, but it's very dangerous. If you don't pay attention, decades can pass, and one day you wake up realizing that you've lived somebody else's life. Don't let that happen to you. Find your true calling and find a way to use your unique gifts in an environment that energizes you. Be selfish in your pursuit of that path. That's right, I'm saying be selfish. Focus on your own desires, dreams, and self-interest without regard to anyone else's expectations. You only have a narrow window of time when you can be yourself, truly yourself, without the burden of external obligations. You will never have more freedom than this moment. Don't wait to figure out your true passions. Don't procrastinate on this next assignment of your life. This assignment has a deadline, but it's a deadline that you won't know about until it's passed. Because one day you will wake up and you will be the one who has to sacrifice and worry about someone else's happiness and someone else's safety. A spouse, a child, a parent, a grandparent. When that time comes, you won't have the luxury of being selfish and figuring out what makes you happy. If finding genuine happiness were a written assignment, the essay question would be the following quote from the poet Mary Oliver. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? The world needs the best version of you, not just a pretty good version of someone else's vision of who you should be. Say thank you to the people who have sacrificed so much for you by finding genuine happiness. So, to the class of 2015, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? We're all excited to see. Thank you and good luck.